One of the greatest mysteries in the history of opera is how the most exciting soprano of the 20th century lost her voice. There are so many theories. It was a result of weight loss, it was muscle weakness or loss of core support, it was a result of bad technique or the wrong choice of repertoire, it was an inner ear problem or an autoimmune disease called dermatomyositis. But what if it was none of these? What if she never really lost her voice? Welcome to Phantoms of the Opera. I am Ziazan, your host, and today my guest ghost is none other than the legend herself, Maria Callas. Welcome. Thank you for being here with us today. Nearly 50 years after your death, you are still talked about more probably than any other opera singer. There are still new documentaries and biographies coming out all the time, such as this recent book by Lyndsy Spence, cast a Diva. And one of the topics that is covered the most frequently is the matter of vocal deterioration.
What they forget is that my voice was always inconsistent. I would have liked my voice to have done what I wanted at all times, but it seemed I was asking too much. In fact, I would say it was rebellious and did not want to be ordered about, or perhaps I should say dominated. It always wanted to break free, and I suffered for it. I used to say, if you want to appreciate me, you must hear me often. I know I vary, that the voice varies, but if you don't come often, you won't catch the good performances.
But would you say it's true that during the 1960s you gave more bad performances than good?
I was in serious trouble at that time. I was forcing terribly. I was not myself. But it was not my voice that was sick, it was my nerves.
Well, we know that stress has many physical effects.
It all came to a head when I separated from my husband in 1959 and tried to get a divorce in 1960. He tried to have me arrested, he stalked me, he blackmailed me, while our friends condemned me, the public condemned me, and the man I loved abandoned me. All the while I was hounded by the press and my mentally ill mother.
That's a lot. I don't think anyone would be able to sing under those conditions.
My health couldn't stand so much tension. But I was examined by a laryngologist. His name was Ivor Griffiths. He said my vocal apparatus was in marvellous condition. But I could get no respite for my nerves, and my health did not permit me to work as before. I became frightened to go on the stage. I felt paralysed. My throat closed. The tones, the sounds were there, but all self-confidence had disappeared. This was the period they speak of as my vocal crisis.
When Spence mentions this stressful time in her book, she writes, "The emotional dilemma coincided with a series of health issues, but I was struck by frequent mentions of ill health throughout the book. It seems to me you had chronic health issues which flared up as a response to extreme emotional distress, rather than coincidentally."
I was always told it was all in my head, but my health, since my childhood, I seem to be very strong, and I'm not. And then my career was very tough. Of course my health couldn't always hold up.
It sounds as though you were very unlucky to have so many serious health concerns. But what would you say if I told you they might have all been connected? I have here a list of symptoms and health conditions. Can I read from it, and will you tell me if any of them are familiar to you?
I will try.
Migraines and headaches of all kinds and durations.
Worthy of our worst enemies.
Insomnia.
Oh, the bane of my life. I'm afraid I developed quite a dependence on sleeping pills.
Lipedema and lymphedema. Lipedema is a chronic condition that causes fat to accumulate below the waist, creating disproportionately larger legs and hips. It can cause pain and easy bruising in the affected areas. Lymphedema is a chronic condition that causes swelling in tissues due to the lymph system failing to drain excess fluid from the arms or legs. Lipedema often goes undiagnosed for many years and develops into lipolymphedema, a combination of the two conditions.
I was diagnosed with lipedema near the end of my life, but I had swollen, painful legs since I was young. Even when I lost weight, my legs were still much larger than my upper body, and I was refused surgery on them because of the problem of fluid retention. They were frequently covered in bruises.
Did you have any other chronic pain?
Yes, and not just my legs. My whole body ached. My bones ached.
Chronic fatigue?
Do you mean being always tired?
Being frequently overcome by fatigue.
I always worked hard. It's natural that I should have been fatigued by it. But many times I had to take days or even weeks to recover from exhaustion. Of course, I also had the insomnia. When I could get to sleep, I could sleep a long time.
Dysautonomia. This is autonomic system dysfunction. The autonomic system controls the automatic processes in the body, such as breathing, heart rate, digestion, etc. With dysautonomia, there can be problems with regulating those functions, leading to symptoms including poor temperature control, blood pressure drops, fainting and near fainting, dizziness and vertigo, heart palpitations, and more.
I experienced all those, some of them frequently. I always had low blood pressure, and the vertigo was a real problem for me.
Some of those symptoms can also be caused by mitral valve prolapse, which is, again, on this list. It is a weakness in the mitral valve of the heart, which becomes too floppy to close tightly. It can also cause dizziness, palpitations, tiredness, and breathlessness.
I see.
Thyroid issues.
I believed I was overweight from a hormonal imbalance. I only finally lost the weight after having thyroid injections.
Autoimmune disorders.
In 1975, I was diagnosed by Dr. Mario Giacovazzo with, I hope I get this right, a dermatomyositis. I believe that is an autoimmune disease.
It is thought to be so. Common variable immune deficiency, which makes one prone to frequent and worsening recurrent infections of all kinds, especially respiratory.
I was unlucky, I think. I quite frequently caught colds and influenza. I sang through throat infections when I could because of the scandal that came out of each of my cancellations by illness. Of course, everyone knows of Rome. I was diagnosed with bronchitis and tracheitis the next morning, but my name was seriously damaged by this incident, and I still find it unjust that an artist who has had great triumphs should have to explain one cold and be condemned for it.
Chronic and recurrent sinus infections and sinusitis.
This was particularly bad in the early 60s. I was like a deaf man shouting. I had an operation on my sinuses in 61.
Liver problems.
I had jaundice when I was 27.
Gynecological issues including endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, menorrhagia, and miscarriages.
Yes.
Hearing problems.
In 1955, I had to go to Dr. Tomatis for audio-vocal training. My right ear was unable to control my tune. I consulted him 3 times. On the first couple of occasions, I made good progress within 2 weeks. However, on the 3rd time it happened, he felt I would need a longer course of 3 months. But I didn't have the time to spare.
I know you had myopia.
I could hardly see anything at all on stage, but I felt it gave me a heightened sense of the audience.
Severe myopia developing into glaucoma.
I had glaucoma at the end of my life. I took eye drops for it.
Jaw pain and other issues.
That was another one of the challenges I tried to sing through in 1960. I had inflammation in my jawbone. Very painful.
Appendicitis.
Yes, and after I had it out, I developed a hernia.
All forms of hernias, particularly hiatal.
I had 2 operations on the hernia. The plastic mesh they used was very painful, but again my complaints were not taken seriously.
Food and drug allergies with unexpected, extremely sensitive reactions.
I had a strong allergic reaction to codeine, which I was given after I tore the cartilage in my ribs. I was very ill.
Chronically low vitamin D and B12 levels.
During what was supposed to be my comeback tour and became rather my farewell tour, I couldn't go on without regular injections of vitamin B and amphetamines.
Anxiety and depression.
I would say that was a natural response to some of the challenges I faced in my life.
Neurological problems.
Yes.
Poor proprioception. That's a problem with the body awareness sense that tells us where our body is in space, where all our limbs are, and how to coordinate them.
I was always clumsy, if that's what you mean.
Essentially, yes. Finally, hypermobility. You'll probably know it as being double jointed.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
You know that thing you do with your elbows? When you extend your arms like this? Exactly, that thing. You're doing it.
Doing what?
Hyperextending your elbows. Your arms should be straight, but yours bend the wrong way.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
People often don't. If you're used to it, it feels normal.
But is that important? You've listed most of the health issues I suffered throughout my life, but I don't understand the relevance of this
Hypermobility.
What has that to do with all my other problems?
I was reading there from a list of common comorbidities, that is, conditions that occur secondary to or alongside a genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
How do you say it?
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I should say syndromes because it's actually a group of connective tissue disorders characterized by an inability to correctly produce collagen. And since collagen is found throughout the body, these syndromes can affect everything: skin, ligaments, nerves, bones, internal organs, etc. That is why the list of potential comorbidities is so long. I only read out a fraction of it just now. It can also cause severe digestive problems, frequent spontaneous joint dislocations, cerebrospinal fluid leaks, skin that easily tears, bruises or scars excessively, which can make surgery dangerous, and many more debilitating problems. The combination of symptoms and comorbid conditions, as well as the severity, varies from patient to patient.
So a person may have many things wrong which seem to be disconnected, but in fact all come from the same source?
Exactly, which can make it hard to diagnose. A lot of patients are written off as hypochondriacs because they present such a long list of problems.
That's no excuse for doctors to assume they're not telling the truth. All my life I was told it was all in my head, that it was psychological, grippe morale. It was only at the end of my life I could get a real diagnosis for anything, but what good was it then? I was dead not long after.
Many EDS patients actually develop PTSD from interactions with doctors who act exactly as yours did.
It hasn't improved in the years since I died? Surely there must be so much more knowledge of this condition by now.
Unfortunately not. Because EDS is thought to be a rare condition, doctors don't consider it as a likely option when making a diagnosis. Therefore, most cases go undiagnosed or misdiagnosed as something else, which makes it look like it's a rare condition, which it probably is not. You see how it's a cycle. On average, it takes 10 years to get a diagnosis, and after diagnosis, in many places, there is little to no support offered, due to there being very few medical professionals who know anything about it
because they believe it's rare.
So the patients are left to research it themselves and become their own experts and their own guinea pigs for treatments and therapies and diets and supplements, in a desperate attempt to improve their quality of life.
A person must be very strong to survive all that.
As you were.
I'm a strong personality. I pride myself on being a strong character, with her weak points, thank heavens, but I have a strong character. I don't necessarily like to fight, but you have to take it.
Of course. With all your chronic, serious health issues, you had a great career. I think that's testament to your, frankly, formidable strength of will.
It wasn't a very long career.
No, but as well as physical handicaps, you had emotional trauma to deal with. Then with everything life threw at you, I think it's no wonder you sort of fell apart.
Before I died, I felt my voice was making progress. I was already much better than I'd been in 9 years. Is EDS fatal?
Not in most cases, but when it affects the heart and blood vessels, or when there are other complications, it can be fatal.
You know, my official cause of death was a heart attack. I say official because there was no autopsy done. Apparently, dermatomyositis could have caused a heart attack, and so could the steroids I was given for it. But I stopped taking the steroids. They made me put on weight.
I think that's something you should have discussed with your doctor.
I took Mandrax instead.
That's a very dangerous drug.
I was in a lot of pain. Perhaps I took too much.
That would certainly have a detrimental effect.
Oh well, there's nothing to be done about it now.
I guess not.
I feel, I can't say, lighter somehow. What a difference it makes talking to an expert who can listen and explain. Thank you, Doctor.
Oh no, I'm not a medical professional. I'm actually a singer too. I can't diagnose you. I'm just making a suggestion. Just one more theory. For what my opinion's worth, I think a connective tissue disorder would explain all of your chronic health troubles. There may be more things on this list you would recognize and identify with, which I don't know about.
You're not a doctor, but how are you so knowledgeable about... Oh.
Ta-da!
I hope they find a cure in your lifetime.
There's a lot of research that needs to happen first. In fact, I'd like to take this opportunity to say, if any of my generous viewers are sitting there wondering how can I help, I will put a link to the Ehlers-Danlos Support UK website in the description box of this video, where there are multiple ways you can donate. As well as funding research projects, they support, advise and inform both patients and doctors. If you're not able to make a donation, you can still help. May is EDS Awareness Month. You'll find information on the website on how you can help raise awareness. Of course, you can start by sharing this video.
If my contribution can make any difference, I'll be glad. At least it will make a change from everyone talking about how much better I sang when I was fat. I had my greatest recordings when I was skinny as a nail.
Well, although I can't conclusively say what the cause was, I think it's time it was acknowledged that for most, if not all of your life, you were very ill. And actually, I for one find that inspiring.
Inspiring? It jeopardized my career, and that's inspiring.
But you had a career. Hopeful singing students are often told that they shouldn't even think about trying to have a career if they're not 100% fit and healthy. There is no disability representation on the opera stage at the moment. But you not only had a great career, you were a genuine world-class star and one of the most significant artists of any discipline of the 20th century. And all that without any support or understanding of your condition. I call that inspirational. I think, starting now, we should change the story we tell of La Callas, from a tragedy to a symbol of hope for all those who have been told to give it up. Evviva la Divina! Brava, Callas!